Hi everyone, and welcome to the Aries weekly tarot bite reading for the week of July 17th through the 23rd. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot reading for Soul Illumination. I am Lauren. Hi and welcome. To everyone who is returning, thank you so much for your continued support. It means the world to me. And for anyone who is new, I hope you get something meaningful and maybe inspiring from this reading today. So we are taking a look at the energy for the week ahead for the sign of Aries. Now, it is going to be a quick read, about 10 minutes or so, and we are basing it on the two cards, the two themes that came out prominently in the general collective reading, which was posted on Sunday for the week. Now, we had Poised and the King of Pentacles that came out, and really how that those themes developed was that Poised really spoke to, this is a breather week. This is a week where we get a chance to really look at the past cycle that's closing out. And when I say cycle, this is something that is kind of like there's a major theme in this cycle for you. So whatever that, it could be 10 years, it could be a 5-year cycle, it could be even a 2-year cycle. But there's something here where in this cycle, you are realizing this week something that you've mastered in your physical plane of experience. Be that you've learned how to, maybe you went through a hard financial cycle and you've learned how now to master your financial resources. Maybe you went through a time where you had to figure out how to just manage your time and learn how to prioritize better, and now you're a master prioritizer. There's something like that, though, that you have mastered. And we're getting ready now to close out the last cycle, really bring in those lessons and get ready to jump right into the next cycle, because this week is, when we talk about a true catalytic week, this is one of those weeks. So at the end of the week on the 22nd, we have Venus going retrograde in Leo for almost, 3 months now. It goes through September, which is a long period of time for Venus to go retrograde in any sign. But this is really asking us to take a look at what over the past year and a half, really how our value systems have changed, how what we value has changed, and how we can really start to integrate that into our life experience. What do we need to change now to be able to bring more of what we value into our experience? Or also even how to capitalize on our own value and possibly what we mastered in the last cycle. So there's something about that. But this is also about bringing in our star. That's what we're poised to do here. You can see the fairy is looking to bring that star down into her experience. What does that star represent? That's our guiding principle, our dream, our value system that we want to see manifested in the physical for ourselves. So we're all getting ready to do that. Now we also have the north and the south nodes of the moon moving from Taurus and Scorpio, which is where it's been for the past year and a half, which is why we've really been asked to reevaluate what we value, what we enjoy, what we love in our life. But also, now they're moving into, the north and south nodes are moving into Aries and Libra. So now we're going to be integrating this on learning lessons around where we prioritize ourselves versus how we sometimes push ourselves aside for the sake of others, and how can we start to really follow what we value, but learn how to do so in a way that is not going to negatively impact others, but also not going to, but we're going to go for it fully, if that makes sense. So it's going to be an interesting, I'm curious to see how this is all going to play out for all of us here. But we're now going to pull some cards here, Aries, to see really what's going on with these two themes for you specifically. So for Poised, we have 10 of Cups. Wow, beautiful energy. This is the 10 of Cups, is the energy of the happy family. You can see this looks almost like a wedding cake with two people celebrating on top. So there's a sense here of you are getting ready to jump into a cycle, a next cycle that's going to be very abundant, very joyful. And there's not, I can't say, it's almost like I got goosebumps for that. So I hope all of you Aries are really in a place to be excited for that. Let's see here. The 10 of Cups to me really does, there is the star card specifically in the major arcana, but the 10 of Cups, when I think of the star and what we're actually bringing into our experience, it is the 10 of Cups. It is that true emotional fulfillment that comes when we get to touch a little piece of our vision of heaven on earth. Okay, and then you have the Nine of Swords. Now it's interesting because these two cards came up in different placements for your opposite sign of Libra. You guys are your 1/7 of each other. But they came up in a different placement, but very similar. So the Nine of Swords speaks to it's worry. These are the thoughts that keep us up at night. These are the negative what ifs. This is like, oh my gosh, can I get this? Can I bring this in for myself? Is it really something that this can be sometimes even too, where it's almost like, is this too good to be true? I want the 10 of Cups. I want the happy family and the marriage and the whole whatever, but what if it isn't what I'm expecting? Or what if it takes there's an element here that's really coming through strongly, Aries, around responsibility, around it's almost like if you go for the whole thing, there's that feeling of like, but then I have to commit to that, right? I have to fully commit. If I'm going to go in, and if I say I want to have the happy family, well, that means I might actually have to have children. And I might actually then have to commit to the raising of those children for their entire life. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, the dream is real, but then it's almost like the dream becomes real. And you're like, oh, it's not just the dream anymore. It's one of those things where it's like maybe you get the perfect job and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like what I've always wanted. But then you realize that, yeah, now you have this perfect job, but that job is going to require that you work 60 hours a week. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could do that. But it says, yes, you can. Don't worry about what you might have to do, what you might have to change in your life to bring this in. I think for many of you, there's an element here of, again, you probably have gone through somewhat of, anytime we're moving into the 10 of Cups, it means that we've done a lot of work on ourselves on the emotional plane. It means that we've really probably had to go through some struggle to get clear, to be able to allow us to get clear as to what we want to bring into our experience. And there's a certain level of emotional disconnection and then re-engagement that takes place in how I see it working with other people and including myself. There's a certain level of emotional disconnect that then requires kind of soul searching to then reconnect before we finally reconnect fully and then are able to really bring in that 10 of Cups for ourselves. Now, with the King of Pentacles, you have the 8 of Coins. The 8 of Coins is beautiful. That's saying the 8 of Coins is kind of like the apprenticeship card. This is the person who's been putting their head down, doing the work. You've been doing it over and over and over again. And yeah, it really speaks to having mastered something. I think for many of you, though, I'm going to see what else wants to come in. There might be finally, I think, the realization this week of like the bigger picture of, yes, I have been working really hard. I have been putting in the hours. I've been, doing all of these things, but now I see why. It was all to set up kind of the foundation, the framework to be able to bring in this 10 of Cups. And yeah, it might be a little worrying, it might be like, okay, I have the money in the bank to buy the house that my family is going to move into. I have the, whatever it is for you. It's one of those kinds of things where it's like whatever you've been working on, whatever you've been perfecting, whether this is in your personal life or in your, maybe your work life, there's something here on being able to really see now the bigger picture, because we have the Queen of Wands, which is you, Aries. Here you are in all your shining glory. That's your card. But we have the Queen of Wands, the 6 of Cups, and the 4 of Cups. So there's almost an interesting kind of story playing out here. With the 6 of Cups, there's a sense of either making peace with the past. This can be with the 4 of Cups as well coming in there. The 4 of Cups really speaks to a time when there was an element of disconnect or just discontentment with your life experience. This can also feel like kind of being on the outside. You can see the individual here. He's got the 3 cups. He kind of looks like he's just like, eh. And yet his cup is sitting here. And all he has to do is grab his cup. And this is like when we kind of get too focused on what's going on outside of ourselves and not focused on nurturing our own needs. Also, I often see this card as where we are not bringing ourselves authentically to the party, meaning we feel like everybody else is celebrating around us, but it's actually us that's not showing up. That's why we're not feeling engaged. We're kind of maybe withholding, or we're protecting our cup. And with the Six of Cups, I think for some of you, there might be this kind of return to innocence. There might be a return to when things were better, but there could also be this review. I get the feeling that for many of you, you're like re-engaging with your own fire, with the part of yourself that you'd been disconnected from for some time. And again, that disconnect, it's almost like with the Six of Cups, you see these two individuals, one is giving the other one a cup. And it's almost like that's the cup that for so long you were like not willing to take. You were sitting there not willing to see your own cup. And in that cup is your fire. And it sounds strange to say that, right? Because when we talk about cups, we're talking about water and emotions. And yet, how can your fire come from that? We have to be emotionally engaged with life to understand to actually be able to engage with our passion. And it sounds strange to say that, but that is something that I am very much a believer in, that we can't experience our own passion until we feel something, until we feel that connection to our life, but authentic connection to our life, authentic emotional connection, where we are happy, or we realize we're sad, or it's like where we have to realize what we're feeling. And then as we become more aware of what we're feeling, we become more aware of what makes us happy, what we do enjoy, what does meet our needs. And then that's what gets the kind of gears, that's what engages us again with the gears of life. And then therein, it's almost like as the gears start to turn, there's like that spark. And that spark ignites your own internal flame. And that's the Queen of Wands. That's your inner magic. That's blooming where you're planted. That's bringing that magic wand into your life to say, bippity boppity boop, this is what I want. So Aries, there is a sense here of really going back in time to a more pure, authentic version of yourself. And there can be a sense of almost nostalgia coming in of like, I remember when I was this crazy, fiery, dynamic person, and it's saying, yeah, it's time to bring that part of yourself back out. This is not a time for disconnect. Here's the cup again. It's like going back in time literally to get your own, again, what used to emotionally engage you, and then holding that sacred as you move forward from this point, because that's what is, again, bringing out your inner fire. And there is something here around, that's really what I think you've mastered in this last cycle, was getting back to you. Having to go through this period where you were disconnected, you weren't happy, you did feel like you were maybe on the outside looking in, and in reality, you had to join the party. You're the one that had to kind of refine, what emotionally engages you. But now you also see that in that process that you perfected something. You perfected a skill set either in the workplace or in your home life or just in your life in general. And that has set you up now to jump into the 10 of Cups. And all worries aside, you've got your fire back. Keep your eye. I always call her kind of the witch archetype in the tarot, because she really can. When I say bloom where she's planted, doesn't matter where she is, she can make flowers grow in a barren desert. That's the, kind of the theme of that card. And so there's something here around really realizing that within yourself, and that you have the ability to almost manifest what you need as you go. And just keep your eye on the dream, Aries. All right, I'll leave it there. I'm going to look really quickly at the bottom of the cups. There's the 3 of Cups, right? I don't know if you can see it. That's community. That's friendship. That's what this individual felt so removed from for so long. And here it is. It's ready to come in. So yeah, time to rejoin the party, Aries. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead. If you'd like to book a personal reading, you can click on the link in the description box below to visit my website. Otherwise, the full July tarot scope for each sign is up on my channel if you'd like to view yours, and the ones for August will start to be posted at the end of next week. Otherwise, I will see you all next week for your next weekly tarot bite reading. Bye, Aries.